The wind moves first. It stretches across a white, empty expanse with nothing to stop it, nothing to soften it, nothing to hear it. The earth lies buried under meters of snow, flattened into an icy horizon where sky and earth dissolve into a pale, infinite breath. The snow rises and spirals like ashes suspended in the air of a silent fire, floating, twisting, and disappearing again into the storm. At -40 degrees Celsius, the air itself feels sharpened. Exposed skin freezes in minutes, metal shatters, diesel thickens. Sound travels strangely here, muffled, distant, as if the cold swallows the vibration before it can travel far. Beneath the surface, the ground is trapped in permafrost, hardened over millennia. Rivers that once roared now lie buried beneath a thick layer of ice. A frozen channel stretches across the landscape, white and still, seemingly devoid of life. But ice is never still. A crack breaks the silence. It begins as a slight tremor, then intensifies into a roar that echoes throughout the valley. The ice shifts under its own colossal weight. The plates crumple like tectonic bones. The sound resembles distant thunder without clouds, a storm trapped beneath solid glass. Along the river's surface, wispy ribbons of steam begin to rise. The steam spirals up through the cracks in the ice, ghostly and fleeting. Beneath that icy layer, the black water still moves, slow, relentless, patient, moving towards the forest. Dark silhouettes swirl at the edge of the open tundra. The taiga stands heavy with snow, its larch and pine branches bowed under thick white loads. Birch trunks stand pale and skeletal, their bark peeling like ancient parchment. Frost clings to every needle, every twig, every exposed edge. Even the trees seem to resist the cold. The wind presses through the canopy, shaking loose veils of dust that cascade down in slow, shimmering curtains. Then something interrupts the intact surface. In the foreground, embedded in the fresh snow, lies a single footprint, broad, round, powerful. The edges are sharp, newly formed. Snow crystals glitter along its rim, a paw print. It's bigger than a human hand, bigger than expected. The path between the footprints stretches out long and slow, disappearing among the birch trunks ahead. The forest grows denser, silence descends. Between the pale columns of the trees, a shadow moves. At first, it is only movement, barely perceptible against the monochromatic world. Then color emerges, faint orange streaks, black stripes piercing the white light. A figure steps forward. Massive shoulders slide beneath thick winter fur. Muscles slide beneath skin insulated by fat and protected by fur dense enough to withstand the deadly air. Each breath escaped from the nostrils in slow, wispy clouds. Ice crystals clung to the whiskers. Amber eyes fixed straight ahead, unblinking. The striped giant moves unhurriedly, its legs wide apart to distribute its weight across the snow. Not a single branch breaks. There is no warning. In this frozen empire, strength is measured in silence. The wind picks up again, carrying snow across the tiger's path, softening the tracks behind him. The forest envelops the figure once more, the stripes dissolving into the shadow of the birches and the winter light. Here, ice doesn't just cover the land, breathe, change, wait, welcome to hostile Siberia. The white void begins to take shape. From above, the land reveals its true scale. A map stretches across northern Asia like a continent within a continent. This is Siberia, a vast expanse of millions of square kilometers, extending from the Ural Mountains to the Pacific Ocean. To the east lies the rugged wilderness of the Russian Far East, a region of mountains, river valleys, and coastal forests, still home to Asia's largest predators. Farther south, a deep blue rift cuts through the land. Lake Baikal, the oldest and deepest freshwater lake on Earth. In winter, much of this territory disappears under snow and ice. Temperatures plummet to -50 degrees Celsius in some inland valleys. Breath freezes in the air, fuel jets, even the air seems reluctant to move. However, this same land, just a few months later, can scorch under the summer heat, reaching 30 degrees Celsius. The rivers fill with meltwater, the grasslands glow with heat. Mosquitoes rise in dense clouds above the thawed marshes. Siberia doesn't just experience seasons, it transforms. The ground beneath it all retains the memory of the cold. Permafrost, soil that remains frozen year-round, forms the base of much of the region. In winter, it hardens like stone. In summer, only a surface layer thaws, creating a fragile layer of mud and water over a frozen foundation. Trees grow here with shallow roots, spreading widely rather than deeply, clinging to soil that never fully softens. Entire forests stand precariously balanced on ancient ice. This is the taiga, the largest forest biome on the planet. A vast expanse of coniferous forests encircles the northern hemisphere, but finds its fullest expression here. Larches, pines, firs, and birches dominate the landscape, forming oceans of dark green in summer and skeletal silhouettes in winter. From the air, the taiga seems endless. On the ground, it feels intimate and oppressive, a labyrinth of trunks and shadows. For much of the year, survival seems mathematically impossible. Food is buried, water is locked away, light is reduced to a few hours of twilight. And yet life persists, not by resisting the cold, but by anticipating it. In Siberia, survival isn't just about strength, it's about strategy. Animals develop thicker fur months before the first snowfall. Some store fat in quantities that double their body weight. Others store seeds, hide under insulating snow, or migrate hundreds of kilometers to escape the worst conditions. Timing is everything. A miscalculation of just a few weeks can mean starvation. The landscape itself dictates the rhythm. Freeze, thaw, bloom, burn, freeze again. This is not a static desert, it is a moving system, a land ruled by extremes where every creature must synchronize its life with the temperature and the light. On the surface, it appears frozen and silent. But even in this frozen empire, something is stirring. From the high ridges of the Sikhote-Alin mountains to the frozen river valleys below, a single presence defines the upper edge of the Siberian food chain. It moves like a whisper among the trees. The Siberian taiga, also known as the Amur taiga, is the largest of all taiga subspecies. Males can measure over 3 meters from nose to tail and weigh more than 300 kilograms. In warmer climates, such a size would be considered extraordinary. Here, it's a safe bet. Winter grips flesh and bone tightly. The taiga responds with resilience. Its fur grows longer and paler than that of its southern cousins, a thick mantle that traps air close to the body. Beneath it lies a layer of fat, several centimeters thick, that insulates the muscles and vital organs from the air, capable of freezing exposed skin in minutes. Even its whiskers frost over, forming tiny ice crystals at the tips as it breathes. Steam spills from his nostrils in slow clouds. The taiga moves forward on the sound-absorbing snow. Each step is deliberate. Its paws open at contact, toes slightly spread, distributing its weight like living snowshoes. Where a deer might stumble through the bark, the taiga floats more evenly across the surface. The snow doesn't silence it completely, but it forgives small mistakes. A snapping twig becomes a muffled whisper, a swaying branch a soft sigh. This predator dominates space on a scale that few animals can afford. A single taiga can patrol a territory of up to 1,000 square kilometers. Forested valleys, frozen rivers, mountain slopes covered in wind-blown snow. The extent of this territory reflects necessity, not dominance. Prey is scattered. Energy is scarce. Staying within too narrow a boundary would risk starvation. It pauses beside a birch trunk, its flank brushing against the pale bark. Its muscles twitch beneath its striped fur. The pattern, black bands on dull orange, fractures its outline between the shadow and the tree. In summer, those stripes dissolve into tall grasses and dappled light. In winter, they disintegrate against vertical trunks and drifting snow. Camouflage isn't just color, it's geometry. Further on, the forest becomes denser. The taiga crouches, its shoulders slump forward, its head dips just below the bushline. Its breathing slows. Its ears twitch independently, picking up the slightest disturbances carried on the still air. Somewhere beyond the trees, hooves compact the snow. A soft exhalation, the rhythm of feeding. The taiga is in no hurry. In this climate, a failed chase can cost more calories than it saves. A burst of speed through deep snow quickly drains one's strength. Every ambush must be calculated, every stalk measured against the risk of exposure and exhaustion. Take a step forward, then another one. Behind him, the wind begins to blur the edges of his footprints, erasing the evidence of his passage almost instantly. The forest closes ranks, indifferent, immense. Here, size alone is not enough. Power without precision is a waste of energy. Hunger patiently awaits a misjudgment. To survive here, even the taiga must calculate every step. Here, the snow is not just scenery. It is terrain, it is resilience, it is witness. The taiga moves along the bank of a frozen river, its muzzle low and its whiskers brushing the snow. Every few meters, it stops. A wisp of steam rises faintly from a patch of disturbed snow ahead, a fresh sign. Hoofprints dig deep into the crust, their edges still sharp. A herd of red deer passed through here recently. The tracks are uneven. An animal has fallen behind. The tiger studies the space. It reads the snow as others read ink on paper, a stumble, a hesitation, a shift in weight. Somewhere in that pack there is weakness. Winter hunting is arithmetic. An adult tiger needs the caloric equivalent of about 50 large deer a year to survive. In summer, prey is scattered but accessible. In winter, the snow redefines the equation. It slows the hooves. It exhausts the muscles. It exposes them to fatigue. But it also tests the hunter. Every leap through deep snowbanks consumes precious energy. A failed chase can mean days of hunger. The tiger veers away from the riverbank into the forest. Further on, the branches tremble. A small group of sika deer grazes cautiously on the exposed bark, scraping lichen from the trunks with their teeth. Their fur has thickened for winter, puffed up with cold. Their ears twitch constantly. The tiger crouches down. Its spine flattens. Its shoulder blades rise like twin ridges beneath its fur. Its tail stops. Snowflakes gather on its back and melt slowly among the protective fur. He takes a silent step forward. 1 second. The wind changes. A doe freezes, her head jerking up, her nostrils flare. Alarm surges through the group like an electric shock. In an instant, they spring into action, hooves pounding the snow and bodies scattered among the tree trunks. The tiger lunges. For several seconds, predator and prey move in violent contrast, an orange band against a white chaos. Snow bursts forth beneath striking claws. Muscles surge forward in enormous explosive strides. Then the currents deepen. The deer, lighter and more desperate, leaps erratically over firmer ground. The tiger's chest crashes against a softer pile. Each leap sinks slightly. The momentum falters. In a matter of moments, the distance widens. The tiger slows its pace. It stops. Its breath escapes in thick clouds. Frost clings to its whiskers. It remains motionless, watching as the forest swallows its opportunity. Energy lost. Calories burned. Nothing gained. Hours later, the snow begins to fall more heavily. The wind sweeps across the open terrain, carrying sheets of snowflakes. Visibility is reduced. The world blurs into a moving white. Most animals seek shelter. The tiger doesn't. Near a grove of young birch trees, a small group of wild boars root in the snow, digging trenches with their snouts in search of buried acorns and tubers. Their bodies are dense and muscular, protected by thick fur and fat. Unlike deer, they don't rely solely on speed. They fight. The tiger circles with the wind, almost disappearing completely into the storm. The snow camouflages it, softening its silhouette. The wind carries away its scent. Close the distance meter by meter. Then, in a sudden contraction of muscle and will, it emerges from the white. Slow motion fractures the moment. The snow rises in shimmering arcs. A wild boar turns too late. The tiger's front paws grip its shoulders, claws piercing the skin. Jaws search for the neck, teeth driving through the thick fur to the spine. The boar writhes violently, its hooves digging furrows and its tusks slicing through the air. The struggle churns the snow into a crater of blood and ice. The seconds stretch out. Strength competes with strength. Finally, the boar's movements slow down. Then they stop. The storm continues as if nothing had happened. The tiger rears up over its prey, its sides heaving and flanks trembling with exertion. Exhaustion is palpable in every breath. Here, victory is never achieved without effort. It is won with bruises, with torn muscles, with calculated risk. The feast will sustain him for days, but the snow will fall again, hunger will return, and the forest will demand another reckoning. But the tiger is not alone in this icy contest. The tiger feeds, but the forest remains indifferent. Around the site of the killing, the snow continues to fall in soft, deliberate swirls, settling over the blood, the footprints, and the violence. Within hours, the evidence will fade. Within days, it will disappear. The tiger doesn't stop at isolated events. It operates on a much larger scale than a single hunt. This is the taiga, the largest continuous forest biome on Earth. A vast northern swathe of coniferous forests that stretches across continents. But nowhere is it more immense than here in Siberia. From the ground, it feels enclosed and intimate. From the air, it resembles a frozen dark green ocean in motion. Its architecture is deceptively simple. Tall, slender trunks rise like columns, species built for resilience rather than elegance. Larch dominates much of eastern Siberia, notable among conifers for shedding its needles each autumn, conserving water before winter sets in. Scots pine thrives in sandy soils with reddish bark that peels off in wavy plates. Siberian spruce stands dark and dense, its branches drooping downwards to shed accumulated snow. Each tree is designed to bear a load. The snow settles thickly on the canopy, pressing down with a silent weight. The branches bend, but rarely break. The conical shapes allow the heavy snowdrifts to slide freely during storms. Flexibility is survival written in wood. Beneath the canopy, light is scarce in winter. The sun slips below the horizon, casting long blue shadows among the tree trunks. The undergrowth retreats, dormant in anticipation. The ground itself disappears beneath an ever-deepening white blanket. But that blanket is not dead. Fresh snow is aerated and full of pockets of trapped air. As more layers accumulate, the lower levels compress and harden, creating an insulating barrier. Under 30 centimeters of snow, temperatures can remain surprisingly stable, often just below freezing, even when the surface temperature drops to minus 40 degrees Celsius. This hidden space is known as the subnivean zone, a world beneath the snow. Here, small mammals move through narrow tunnels dug between the ground and the ice. Siberian chipmunks dart through these corridors, feeding on seeds stored months earlier. Lemmings gnaw on roots and grasses preserved by the frost. The Siberian weasels scurry through the same passageways in pursuit, their elongated bodies designed for confined spaces. Above, the forest appears frozen and still. Down below, it hums silently with the movement. Snow insulates sound as effectively as heat. A fox passing over it might never hear the faint heartbeat beneath its paws, but every now and then, a slight vibration betrays hidden life. A sudden collapse of the crust, a soft creak beneath the surface. The subnivean zone is a paradox, fragile yet reliable. Without it, small herbivores would perish from the cold, and the predators that depend on them would soon follow. The entire upper food chain, including the taiga, relies indirectly on this hidden layer of warmth. The taiga is not just a stage for large predators, it's an engine. Here, nutrients circulate slowly. Fallen needles acidify the soil. Fungi intertwine with roots in vast underground networks, exchanging minerals for sugars in a silent symbiosis. In summer, insects swarm in unimaginable numbers, feeding birds and fish. In winter, the pace slows but never stops completely. Life persists in gradients, not in absolutes. The tiger moves through this forest like an elite hunter, but it's also part of a much larger plan. Its prey feeds on bark and shoots nourished by the summer sunlight. These trees thrive in soils shaped by freezing and thawing. Beneath them, small mammals burrow tunnels through the insulating snow, aerating the soil that will one day hold new growth. Predator and prey are only the visible surface. The real story is in the layers, the canopy, the trunk, the snow, the ground, each dependent on the others. The forest may seem silent, but silence here is structure. At first glance, winter seems absolute. The snow stretches unbroken between the tree trunks. The wind smooths it, forming sculpted ridges and shallow dunes. There are no footprints, no movement, no sound. But beneath that white shell, there is a whole world awake. Just a few centimeters below the surface lies the subnivean zone, a narrow space between the ground and the snowpack where life finds refuge from the most intense cold. Paradoxically, snow acts as a blanket. Its crystals trap air, and this trapped air resists heat loss. While the air at the surface can drop to minus 40 degrees Celsius, the temperature under the snow often hovers around zero. In Siberia, survival sometimes means taking refuge beneath the very heart of winter. A slight tremor moves beneath the bark. A tunnel collapses slightly, then reforms as a small body passes through. The Siberian squirrel darts through a network of narrow corridors dug between roots and frozen ground. Its cheeks bulge slightly with seeds stored during autumn's brief abundance. Months ago, it amassed hundreds of food packets. Now, the memory becomes its lifeline. Nearby, another form flows through the same hidden passageways. The Siberian weasel moves like a fluid muscle. Its elongated body is designed for close quarters pursuit, flexing its spine as it slithers through tunnels barely wider than its skull. Above ground, it appears delicate. Underground, it becomes relentless. Its snout contracts, detecting the faint warmth and scent trails left by rodents. In this compressed underworld, speed is less important than precision. The snow softens the struggle that follows. Above the surface, silence prevails. But predators don't rely solely on sight. In a snowy field, a pale figure stands motionless against the wind. The Arctic fox tilts its head slightly, its ears twitching like satellite dishes. Beneath the bark, something stirs. A heartbeat, a scratch of claws against the ice. The fox listens. For long seconds, he remains completely still. Then, with sudden certainty, he jumps. The movement is vertical and explosive. The hind legs propel the fox downward, launching it into the air. For an instant, it hangs suspended against the grey sky, its white fur mingling with the falling snow. Then he dives headfirst. The snow crust cracks on impact. Dust erupts in an explosion of crystals. The fox disappears almost entirely beneath the surface. Its tail is the last visible marker before vanishing into white. A few moments later, it reappears, its jaws clamped on a struggling rodent. The snow, which protects the prey, also betrays it. This layered system, soil, tunnel, snow and air, creates a hidden hunting ground. Small mammals feed on roots and bark protected by insulation. Medium-sized predators hunt within this narrow band of warmth. Larger hunters pick up faint signals transmitted through the bark and detect vibrations. Each layer depends on the one below it. Without snow, the sub-snow world collapses. Without rodents, the weasel starves. Without rodents or hares, the fox weakens. And beyond them, even higher in the hierarchy, larger predators feel the shockwave. The forest above may appear frozen and still, but beneath the snow, life is compressed, concentrated and surprisingly active, a silent pulse that sustains the giants who walk above their heads. Winter spares no one, not even the powerful. In the forests of the Russian Far East, another giant walks beneath the snowy canopy. Larger than any wolf, more powerful than any deer, a force of muscle and fur sculpted by the cold, the brown bear of Ussuri. In late autumn, before the rivers freeze and the forest solidifies, the bear concentrates completely. It feeds almost without rest. It plucks berries from bushes. It pulls roots from the ground. It snatches fish from streams. It claims and defends carcasses. Every bite is converted into fat, a dense reserve of stored energy that accumulates beneath its skin. By winter, an adult male can weigh over 600 kilograms. Much of that mass is not muscle, but insulation and fuel. Fat is more than just filler, it's survival chemistry. As temperatures drop, the bear retreats to its den, often a hollow dug into a hillside beneath tree roots or within a natural cavity sheltered from the wind. Snow accumulates over the entrance, sealing it in a white cocoon. Inside, darkness and silence reign. The bear doesn't truly sleep like smaller mammals. It enters a state of torpor, a controlled metabolic slowdown. Its heart rate drops dramatically. Breathing becomes slow and shallow. Its body temperature decreases only slightly, remaining high enough to prevent tissue damage but low enough to conserve energy. He will not eat for months. He will not drink. It will not urinate or defecate. Its body recycles waste, converting it into usable protein. Muscle mass is preserved despite prolonged inactivity. Bone density remains virtually intact. It is one of the most extraordinary physiological adaptations among mammals, a living suspension between seasons. Inside the lair, a smaller movement stirs. The pups are born in the dead of winter, blind and barely bigger than a loaf of bread. They feed on rich, fatty milk while their mother sleeps in this suspended state. Outside, storms rage. Temperatures plummet. Inside, the heat remains steady, generated by stored energy. Time passes without witnesses. Then the light changes. In late winter, the sun lingers a little longer above the horizon. The snow softens at its edges. Meltwater begins to seep beneath the ice crusts. Inside the den, the bear's breathing deepens. Its muscles tense. Its lethargy loosens. One morning, the sealed entrance cracks. A massive head emerges from the hardened snow, steam rising from its dark fur. The bear blinks in the daylight for the first time in months. Behind her, two small figures stagger awkwardly in the brightness. Cubs stumble on unsteady paws, their fur still pale and soft. The forest, once silent and buried, now feels different. The dripping water echoes in the branches. The ice cracks more frequently along the river. The light shines more brightly between the tree trunks. The giants of winter are awakening. Spring is beginning. The first crack is subtle. A thin crack zigzags across the surface of a river that has remained silent for months. The sunlight lingers longer each day, pressing its heat against the ice. What was once a rigid, crystalline plain begins to darken from below. The water advances upward, patient and persistent. Then the river breaks. Ice sheets tilt and collide, creaking with a sound like distant artillery. Entire slabs are lifted up before breaking into floating islands. The current, freed from its icy shell, surges forward in a torrent of black water and foam. On the banks, the snow collapses inward, revealing mud and tangled roots. The thaw has begun. Across Siberia, meltwater spreads across vast floodplains. Low-lying forests become shallow lakes. Fields transform into temporary wetlands. The water carries nutrients retained throughout the winter, redistributing life across the land. The palette ranges from white and grey to brown and silver, and then, almost overnight, green. The buds spread along the branches of the larch and birch. Grass pushes its way through the softened earth. The air thickens with moisture and aroma, the scent of thawing earth, decaying leaves and fresh shoots. What seemed inert just a few weeks ago now vibrates with quiet urgency. From above, thin lines are formed against the sky. They multiply. Migratory birds return in waves following ancient migratory routes that connect Siberia with Africa, Southeast Asia, and beyond. Siberian cranes descend upon flooded marshes, their white bodies reflected in the shallow water. Patch geese gather in noisy flocks along the riverbanks, searching for fresh shoots in the mud. High above, birds of prey circle, reclaiming territories abandoned to the winter. The forest is filled with movement. The nests are built quickly. Eggs are laid. Courtship calls echo among the tree trunks. For many species, the window of opportunity is limited. Summer here is short and breeding must coincide with an abundance of food. And the food arrives in astonishing quantities. As temperatures rise, insects emerge in explosive numbers. Mosquitoes rise from the thawing marshes in dense clouds, forming living veils that shimmer in the sunlight. Mosquitoes swarm along the riverbanks. Beetles crawl beneath the bark. The air hums continuously, a sound absent for half the year. For mammals, this is abundance. For birds, it is necessity. Swallows fly low over the water, catching insects in mid-air. Warblers flit among the new leaves, plucking larvae from the tender shoots. Even the largest predators benefit indirectly as prey becomes stronger and more numerous thanks to this seasonal abundance. The soundscape is completely transformed. Where winter brought only wind and the occasional crackle of ice, spring brings layers of sound, dripping water, flapping wings, mating calls, distant splashes. The forest breathes differently now. It feels expansive, almost generous. But this awakening is not gentle. Floods can isolate animals in ever-shrinking areas of land. Ice jams can completely divert the course of rivers. Abrupt temperature changes test resilience as intense cold once did. Siberia is not experiencing a smooth transition, it is pivoting. The tiger moves through a landscape that seems reborn. The snow recedes into shadowy hollows. Mud clings to its fur instead of frost. The trails of prey intensify in the damp air. Winter demanded moderation. Spring demands speed. The land, once sealed by ice, now throbs with urgency, and its growth accelerates against the certainty that the cold will return. The rivers that broke free from their icy prisons now carry more than just meltwater. They signal the return. In the distant North Pacific, the salmon matured in cold, open oceans, feeding and growing for years without ever seeing land. Now, guided by a chemical memory imprinted at birth, they head for fresh water. Against currents that intensify with every kilometer inland, they embark on their final journey. In the coastal rivers of the Russian Far East, the water darkens with movement. Chum salmon swim upstream in dense formations, their bodies gleaming silver beneath the surface. Alongside them, pink salmon crowd into shallow channels, changing color as they approach spawning grounds. What was once sleek and shimmering like the ocean becomes mottled and muscular, their jaws curling into hooks as hormones transform them for reproduction. They do not eat during this migration. All their energy is directed towards a single task, reaching the gravel deposits from where they themselves began. The current resists every movement. Salmon leap against the waterfalls, their bodies slamming against the rocks before plunging back into the churning spray. Some make it, many don't. Exhaustion, injury, and predation thin their ranks long before spawning begins. Along the riverbanks, the forest gathers to witness the phenomenon. An imposing silhouette stands in the middle of the river, the water pressing against its paws. The Ussuri brown bear has returned to the river with singular concentration. Its snout contracts, separating the metallic scent of fish from the mineral taste of the water. This is the season of stockpiling. Months of dormancy must be replenished with calories. The bear waits, motionless except for its eyes. A salmon breaks the surface. In an almost imperceptible movement, the bear's front paw plunges downward, its claws skim the water. A silvery flash spreads through the air and falls heavily onto the rocks. The bear closes its powerful jaws around the fish's neck, silencing its movements. It often consumes only the most energy-rich parts, the skin, the brain, the eggs, before abandoning the rest on the riverbank. Above, broad wings cast shifting shadows. Stella's sea eagle descends gracefully, talons outstretched. With a wingspan of nearly 2.5 meters, it commands the coastline. Where the bear feeds, the eagle thrives. Leftovers become sustenance. The cycle extends outward, the foxes swoop in cautiously. The crows gather in noisy groups, even the insects swarm over the discarded meat. What begins in the ocean does not end in the river. The carcasses left on the shores decompose slowly, releasing marine nutrients into the forest soil. Nitrogen and phosphorus, carried hundreds of kilometers inland by the salmon's bodies, seep into the tree roots. The needles turn greener, the undergrowth thrives. The forest itself is nourished by the ocean's bounty, thus river and forest are inseparable. The salmon migration is not a simple migration. It is a pulse, a seasonal infusion of energy that spreads equally among predators, scavengers and plants. Bears fatten up for winter, eagles strengthen for breeding. The soil receives nutrients it would otherwise lack. The river continues its course, carrying the last exhausted fish towards their spawning grounds. Soon silence will return to these channels, but for now the water is full of life and all the creatures within its reach respond. Above the rivers and forests of the Russian Far East, the air itself becomes hunting ground. Winter doesn't silence the sky, it refines it. Perched atop a skeletal larch, an imposing silhouette surveys the frozen expanse. The white-tailed eagle is one of the largest eagles on Earth. Its wings, when fully extended, are wider than a human is tall. Its dark chocolate-brown feathers contrast sharply with its white shoulders and tail, a living symbol against the snow. Its beak is immense, deep, curved and burnished gold in color, designed not for delicacy but for strength. Below, a river lies partially frozen. Ice shelves press in from the banks, leaving narrow channels of exposed water where the current is too strong to seal them. Steam rises faintly in the morning air. Beneath that surface, fish move slowly in the cold. The eagle leans forward. The wind tugs at her feathers, but she doesn't resist. She takes a step in the air. The wings unfurl with measured power. Each downward flap displaces the cold air in strong pulses. Unlike smaller raptors, which rely on rapid flapping, this eagle moves with deliberate force, taking advantage of thermals when they are present and gliding low over the riverbed, a flash below. In an instant, the glide turns into a dive. The wings partially fold, the talons extend. The eagle strikes the water's surface with explosive precision, its talons slashing through the thin ice and the flesh beneath. Water shoots upward. In an instant, bird and river collide in violent symmetry. Then the eagle soars, struggling against the added weight of its prey. Water trickles from the fish as it ascends, its talons intertwined. Winter fishing is a risk. The ice can fracture unpredictably. A miscalculated strike can trap the wings against the icy water, but precision, honed through seasons of practice, minimizes errors. The reward is abundant in protein and fat at a time when many food sources lie buried. As daylight fades, another hunter claims the night. In a stretch of old-growth forest near open water, a deep call echoes among the trees. It is low and resonant, more a vibration than a sound. Blakiston's fish owl emerges from the shadows. One of the world's largest owls, it possesses an aura of serene authority. Its mottled brown and cream feathers blend seamlessly with the bark and branches. Its yellow eyes catch the faintest glimmer of reflected light. Unlike most owls, this species specializes in fish. It perches on a low branch overlooking a narrow crack in the ice. The current keeps this band of water open year-round, a vital feeding corridor in a landscape that would otherwise be frozen. The snow begins to fall again, fine and steady. The owl does not blink. Minutes pass. Then a movement disturbs the surface, a subtle ripple, a change in the current. Without warning, the owl descends. Its descent is almost silent. Its broad wings slice through the falling snow without a sound. Its talons strike the water, sinking into the icy surface and gripping with crushing force. For a moment, only disturbed waves mark the encounter. Then the owl ascends, holding the fish tightly and beating its wings firmly towards a secluded perch where it will feed. The snow briefly sticks to their feathers before melting from body heat. These aerial predators endure the same extreme conditions as their terrestrial counterparts. Feathers must insulate them from the deadly cold. Their vision must adapt to the dim winter light. They must conserve energy when prey is scarce. Each successful attack sustains not only the hunter, but also often its mate and offspring. Above storms and snowfalls they persist. Where the river resists freezing, wings gather. Where the ice cracks, talons respond. The sky, like the forest floor, belongs to those who calculate their movements carefully. In southern Siberia, the forest thins, then fades and finally disappears completely. The trees give way to the horizon. The land opens up like a held breath finally released. This is the steppe, a vast prairie stretching into Mongolia and beyond, swept by the wind and unprotected. Here there are no mountains to block the weather, no canopy to soften it. The sky presses in, the earth lies exposed. In winter, snow covers the plains in horizontal sheets. In summer, heat spreads over the grass. The seasons do not arrive gently, they advance like armies. However, life thrives in this apparent void. Across the open fields roams Przewalski's horse, the last truly wild horse on earth. Robust, brown, with a mane erect like a bristling crest, it looks ancient because it is. Genetic studies reveal that it diverged from domestic horses thousands of years ago. It is not a runaway wild horse, it is a relic. Przewalski's horses, once extinct in the wild and surviving only in zoos, have returned to parts of the Mongolian steppe and southern Siberia through careful reintroduction. Their hooves rumble across the ground again, like a small rumble of thunder on the open grass. They graze in tight groups, the stallions alert, ears pricked up. Survival here requires vigilance. There are no hiding places. Further south and east, the movement is felt on the plains, not just one animal, but hundreds, sometimes thousands. The Mongolian gazelle migrates in vast herds, flowing across the steppe like a living stream. Its migrations are among the largest movements of ungulates remaining on the planet. They follow rainfall patterns, searching for fresh grass across distances that seem almost mythical. The steppe is not fenced in their minds. It is a continuous field of possibilities. When alarmed, they spring into action, leaping with springy grace. Speed is their defense. In a land without refuge, hesitation is fatal. The wind never truly stops here. It combs the grass, forming silvery waves. It carries smells and sounds for miles around. A distant clatter of hooves, the approach of a predator, the dry rustle of stalks brushing against each other, everything travels. This openness shapes behavior. Herd animals group together not only for protection but also to gather information. Each eye contributes to the network. Each ear expands the perimeter of awareness. The steppe is a place where perception is survival. Beneath the grass lies a quieter engine of life. Root systems weave dense underground mats, protecting the soil from erosion. Insects burrow, small mammals dig tunnels. Birds of prey circle, searching for movement invisible to the human eye. Nutrients are rapidly recycled during the brief summers when sunlight lingers well into the night. At first glance, it looks empty. It isn't. The steppe is moderation made visible. There are no dramatic cliffs or imposing forests to distract the eye. Here, beauty is horizontal. It unfolds in the distance, in movement, in the wind. And yet, this vastness is fragile. Fences disrupt migrations. Roads cut straight lines across ancient routes. Climate change alters the rainfall patterns on which the herds depend. In a landscape defined by openness, fragmentation is a particularly acute wound. Even so, at dawn, when the first light spreads across the plains, the horses raise their heads. The gazelles begin to move. Frost sparkles on every blade of grass. The steppe does not endure because of its abundance, but because of its adaptation. Life extends across a restless and breathing land. Wolves of the white silence winter is settling in over Siberia to such an extent that even sound seems to freeze. The snow buries the undergrowth, the rivers harden, the air sharpens until it becomes almost metallic in the lungs. Across this white expanse moves a figure both ghostly and deliberate, the grey wolf. Grey wolves don't just survive Siberian winters, they're built for them. Their double-layered fur traps heat against their skin, while their long guard hairs repel snow like water off stone. Their paws, spread wide, act as natural snowshoes. In the silence, their muscles and metabolism burn constantly, conserving energy with relentless efficiency. But its greatest adaptation is not physical, it's social. A lone wolf is formidable. A pack is strategy made flesh. Most packs consist of a breeding pair and their offspring of several years, a family, not an army. Cooperation here is not optional, it is the architecture of survival. In winter, prey weaken, but so do predators. Every chase carries a cost measured in calories. Every failed chase steals energy that may not be replenished. That's how wolves calculate. They move at a trot that can last for hours, sometimes days, a stamina-based pace that covers astonishing distances with minimal energy loss. While many predators rely on bursts of speed, wolves specialize in patience. They test a herd of elk or deer, watching for any hesitation, injury, or fatigue. A single misstep becomes the first step. When the chase begins, it is rarely chaotic. The wolves spread out, guiding their prey through the hardened snow, where hooves dig in and legs falter. Deep mounds become traps. Frozen rivers become corridors. The landscape itself becomes part of the strategy. Resistance is their weapon. A moose might run faster in the first few minutes, but wolves are marathoners in nature. Their hearts and lungs are built for sustained pursuit. They don't rush, they wear themselves out. Over miles of white terrain, steam rises from the flanks. Snow billows into the air. The rhythm of hooves against the crust becomes relentless. Finally, the prey slows, not from lack of strength, but from exhaustion. At that moment, the herd closes in. It's efficient, it's brutal, it's necessary, and there is rarely any waste. Once a kill is made, nothing is left untouched. Crows arrive first, black streaks against the snow. Foxes wait on the perimeter. Even in sub-zero temperatures, bacteria and insects move within the carcass when conditions allow. Nutrients spread in ever-widening circles. The wolf hunt sustains an ecosystem. However, wolves are not constant movement or violence. Between hunts, there is a silent intimacy, grooming, play, subtle vocalizations, a raised tail, a lowered ear. Communication is complex and nuanced. The howl, that long, evocative note that crosses icy valleys, represents not so much a threat as cohesion. It reunites the family, it maps the territory, it offers comfort in the darkness. Sound travels far in winter. The cold air is dense, a perfect conductor. A single howl can extend for miles across snowfields and taiga. In that instant, the silence is unbroken. It is defined. The vastness of Siberia once offered wolves endless corridors. But like many wide-ranging predators, they depend on undisturbed terrain. Roads, settlements, and industrial expansion are fracturing territories that evolved to stretch across hundreds of square kilometers. This fragmentation alters the movements of prey. It disrupts the invisible geometry of pack life. Even so, in the white months when the sun is low and the world is reduced to frost and breath, the wolves resist. They move like thought on snow, deliberate, coordinated, invisible until they suddenly become apparent. In their persistence lies an ancient truth. Survival here belongs not to the strongest individual, but to the most united group. In the white silence of Siberia, the wolf does not conquer winter, he listens, and then he runs. In southern Siberia lies a body of water so ancient that it predates the emergence of most modern mammals. Lake Baikal is more than just a lake, it's a geological relic. At approximately 25 million years old, it's the oldest freshwater lake on Earth. It's also the deepest, plunging over 1,600 meters into the Earth's crust, where tectonic forces continue to tear the land apart, millimeter by millimeter. Lake Baikal is not a static landscape. It is an open wound in the continent, a crack that is slowly widening. It contains almost 20% of the world's unfrozen freshwater. As you approach its shore, the scale distorts your perception. The other side often fades into mist, like an inland sea feigning modesty. In winter, the surface freezes, but it doesn't become opaque. The ice of Lake Baikal is astonishingly clear. Winds sweep the snow from its surface, polishing it to a glassy finish. Sunlight penetrates deep, illuminating air bubbles trapped in vertical columns, while frozen methane rises from the depths. Cracks crisscross the surface with cracks that resonate for miles around. The lake speaks in its fractures. Beneath that transparent lid swims one of the lake's great enigmas, the Baikal seal, also known as the Nerpa. It is the only exclusively freshwater seal species in the world. How its ancestors arrived in this inland basin remains a subject of debate, perhaps through ancient connections with the Arctic seas long since lost. Theories abound, none is definitively established. The Baikal seal is compact, silvery grey, and has large eyes. In winter it maintains breathing holes in the ice, opening them with its tenacious claws. Females give birth in snow dens on the frozen surface, hidden from predators and the biting wind. A marine mammal that thrives thousands of kilometers from any ocean, evolution revels in these unlikely environments. The age of Lake Baikal has allowed life to experience itself. More than half of its approximately 4,500 known species exist nowhere else on Earth. These endemic species, organisms confined to a single location, are the lake's defining characteristic. There are translucent amphipods in a riot of diversity, some bright orange or green foraging in the depths. There are sponges growing in forest-like clumps along the rocky shores. There is also the golomyanka, an almost transparent oil-rich fish so buoyant that it floats mid-water and gives birth to live young instead of laying eggs. Time, isolation, and stability have transformed Baikal into an evolutionary workshop. The cold water sinks and circulates, oxygenating even the deepest layers. Unlike most lakes, Lake Baikal doesn't stratify into stifling depths. Life can persist far below, where sunlight fades to an indigo hue. Hydrothermal vents cover parts of the lakebed, whispering warmth into the abyss. Geological restlessness fuels biological persistence. In summer, the lake's atmosphere transforms. The ice retreats. Winds create pronounced waves. Phytoplankton flourishes in sunlit layers, forming the base of a complex food web. Migratory birds rest on its shores. The surface sparkles under a sky that seems impossibly vast, but old doesn't mean invulnerable. Industrial runoff, climate change, invasive species of these pressures spread. Warmer winters alter ice formation. Thinner ice disrupts seal breeding success. Nutrient imbalances trigger algal blooms in once pristine areas. A system perfected over millions of years can be disrupted in decades. Deep time is patient. Human time is not. Even so, Lake Baikal persists. From above, it resembles a dark, elongated eye embedded in the continent. In winter, its transparent ice forms a half-closed lid. In summer, it reflects the clouds with disconcerting precision. It seems less like a lake and more like an observer, recording tectonic shifts, evolutionary invention, and the silent arrival of humans on its shores. Water remembers through chemistry, through layers of sediment, through DNA carried by its currents. Lake Baikal is ancient, but it is not a relic. It is alive, dynamic, and continues to expand as the Earth's crust slowly rifts beneath it. An eye, yes, but also a pulse, cold, deep, and astonishingly clear. When Siberia approaches summer, it doesn't heat up gently, but rather accelerates. The snow recedes into shadowy ravines. The rivers swell with meltwater. The sun lingers each night until twilight becomes a late occurrence. The Earth, frozen for most of the year, exhales. And with that exhalation comes the movement. Mosquitoes emerge from the thawing wetlands in astonishing numbers. Eggs laid the previous summer hatch almost simultaneously as the pools warm. The larvae move in shallow water, feeding on microorganisms as they complete their brief aquatic youth. Within days, the very air seems to vibrate. The swarms gather in grey, moving columns. They are not random clouds, but sensitive systems drawn by carbon dioxide, body heat, and scent. For a caribou, a human, or a bear, warm blood is a beacon. The sound becomes constant, a sharp electrical hum that settles in the ears and refuses to go away. It feels punitive. But the mosquito is not the villain of any moral drama. It is biomass. Protein with wings. Migratory birds feed on them. Fish attack them with bites blown into the water by the wind. Dragonflies weave their way through swarms with surgical precision. Even the blood they ingest redistributes nutrients across the landscape, drawing energy from large mammals into the insect web. In Siberia, abundance often comes in overwhelming ways. The summer heat also unleashes another force: fire. The taiga, that immense band of boreal forests stretching across northern Eurasia, is made up of resin-rich conifers, pine, larch, fir. Their needles carpet the ground, forming dry mats. Lightning crackles across the vast skies, and sometimes a single flash is enough. The flame tears through the undergrowth. It climbs the tree trunks in a spiral. It leaps from treetop to treetop as the wind picks up. Columns of smoke curl into the atmosphere, visible from space. Entire valleys can glow under a coppery sky. To the human eye, wildfires foreshadow catastrophe. And they can, especially as climate change lengthens fire seasons and intensifies droughts. In recent decades, fires have grown larger and burned more intensely, releasing immense deposits of carbon that were long trapped in trees and permafrost. However, fire is not foreign here. It is ancient. Many boreal species are adapted to it. Some cones are serotinous, sealed with resin that only melts at high temperatures. Fire becomes the key that unlocks their seeds. The ash enriches the soil with minerals. Sunlight, previously blocked by the canopy, floods the forest floor. Just weeks after a fire, the color green returns. The tall, magenta, defiant willow herb usually appears first, its seeds carried by the wind. Grasses follow. Shrubs reclaim ground. Insects arrive, then birds. Moose browse the tender shoots in the regenerating areas. A blackened landscape becomes a mosaic of renewal. This cycle, growth, burning and regrowth, shapes the architecture of the taiga. It prevents stagnation. It diversifies the age structure of the forest, old growth stands, young growth stands, and open clearings. This heterogeneity fosters resilience, but there is a threshold. When fires burn too frequently, seedlings cannot mature. When permafrost thaws deeply, peat soils ignite and smolder underground for months, releasing carbon from ancient plant matter. These zombie fires can hibernate under the snow and reignite in spring. The feedback loop intensifies. Warmer temperatures encourage more fires release more greenhouse gases. Summer in Siberia is therefore a paradox. It's the season of explosions, with insects in the air, plants rushing through their short-growing windows, and animals feeding urgently. It's also the season when stored energy, accumulated over decades, can vanish in a puff of smoke. Stand in a clearing after a burn and you'll smell charcoal and resin. The ground is warm under your boots. Ash rises in wispy puffs with every step. It feels like the aftermath. Returning a year later, the landscape has changed. Young trees are growing. Beetles are boring into the dead wood, initiating decay. Life is reorganizing itself, not through emotion, but through chemistry and opportunity. The Siberian summer is not a peaceful abundance. It is intensity condensed into weeks. It is vibrant air and crackling forests. It is destruction intertwined with regeneration. The earth does not choose between them. It burns, it feeds, it starts again. Summer in Siberia ends almost abruptly, as if someone had turned off the lights. The air grows sharper, the nights lengthen, the leaves along the river valleys blaze in gold and copper before surrendering to the wind. Insects disperse, the great engine of growth begins to slow. What was abundance becomes urgency. Autumn here is not nostalgia, it's preparation. Across forests and steppes, animals focus their priorities on one central task: storing energy. Fat is not vanity in Siberia, it is currency. It is insulation, fuel, insurance against the months when the land offers almost nothing. Bears tirelessly feed on berries, fish and nuts, converting the sugar and protein into thick layers under their skin. Small mammals store seeds in underground vaults. Even predators adapt their hunting patterns to maximize caloric intake. Every meal is measured against the approaching cold. Inside our bodies, hormones recalibrate. Metabolisms tend to store. Appetite intensifies. The race isn't visible on the stopwatch, but it's relentless. Another drama unfolds among the deer. The deer that spent the summer grazing peacefully are now transforming. Testosterone levels rise, their necks thicken, their antlers, which grow back every year, become weapons. In the forests of the Russian Far East, the deep, resonant calls of rutting deer echo through the trees at dusk. The rut is a time of noise and confrontation. Males demonstrate their strength through vocal displays and parallel strides, sizing up their rivals before engaging in battle. When neither yields, antlers clash with a crack that echoes through the undergrowth. Shoves, twists and levers, contests of endurance and leverage more than mere violence. Victory guarantees access to mating. Defeat comes at a cost: injuries, energy loss, depleted reserves just before winter. The timing is crucial. Calves conceived now will be born in late spring when forage returns. Evolution adapts reproduction to the climate with relentless precision. Further south, in the mixed forests along the Amur River basin, a larger shadow moves. The Siberian tiger, also known as the Amur tiger, enters autumn with sharpened stakes. Prey species shift their ranges. Deer become wary during the rut. Competition for territory intensifies as young tigers disperse in search of their own domains. A tiger's territory can span hundreds of square kilometers. Boundaries are marked with scent, urine sprayed against tree trunks, and claw marks etched into bark. These signals are chemical declarations. I am here. I am strong. Keep your distance. But autumn is a season in which limits are tested. Young males, driven by the instinct to claim territory, may cross invisible boundaries. Encounters are rare but momentous. Tigers don't roar like lions. They avoid conflict whenever possible. However, when two adults meet in disputed territory, the clash is swift and brutal. Teeth, muscles, momentum. An injury sustained now could mean death in February. The forest silently endures these tensions. Fallen leaves cushion footsteps. Frost marks the edges of puddles. Migratory birds take flight south in shifting formations, leaving the impending frost behind. The plants also retreat. Nutrients are drawn from the leaves to the roots. The sap thickens, growth stops, the landscape prepares to be blocked. The Siberian autumn has a psychological quality, a narrowing. The days shorten with a noticeable speed. The shadows lengthen on the forest floor. The exuberance of summer feels like a whisper, but this is not despair. It's discipline. All species here have evolved to a rhythm of excess followed by austerity. Autumn is the season of reckoning. Have you stored enough? Are you strong enough? Have you claimed enough space, enough mates, enough fuel? The answers will be revealed in the snow. When the first real frost arrives, when the ponds freeze and the ground hardens, the race stops. The accumulated energy becomes spent energy. The forest falls silent once more, and survival once again depends on what was done in those brief, scorching weeks of preparation. In Siberia, autumn is not an end. It's a battle against winter. When the sun dips below the Siberian horizon, it doesn't simply set. He retires. Darkness spreads across the taiga and steppe with astonishing speed in winter, absorbing color until the world is reduced to silver and shadows. Temperatures plummet, sound travels farther. Frost crystallizes on branches like delicate circuits. The earth seems empty. It isn't. Night is when certain lives begin. The Eurasian lynx moves through the forest, silent as drifting snow. Its body is compact yet powerful, its legs long and massive, and its natural snowshoes distribute its weight across the soft snow. Tufts of fur rise from its ears like delicate antennae, and its short, black-tipped tail flicks once and then stops. The lynx hunts alone, with keen eyesight in the gloom and ears attuned to the faint rustle of a mouse beneath the hardened snow. He glides between the tree trunks with measured precision. No movement is wasted. A pause, a tilt of his head. A sudden leap, his front paws digging into the snow with explosive force. Sometimes the strike finds its mark. Often it doesn't. Energy must be carefully controlled. Winter is a strict counter. For larger prey, such as hares and roe deer, the lynx prefers stealth at a distance. It stalks for minutes, sometimes longer, using shadows for cover. The snow reflects starlight, creating a faint, diffuse glow that favors predators adapted to it. The forest at night is not completely black. It has texture. Above the trees, the wings cut through the cold air. Owls rule this hour. Among them, the immense Blakiston's fishing owl hunts in ice-bound rivers of the Far East. One of the largest owls on Earth, it stalks on overhanging branches, searching for movement beneath the thin ice or in open channels where the current resists freezing. Its flight is designed for silence. Its specialized feathers break up turbulence, dampening gusts of air. Elsewhere in the boreal forest, other owls patrol clearings and edges, listening more than watching. Their facial discs, those circular formations of feathers, act like satellite dishes, channeling sound toward asymmetrically positioned ears. This off-center position allows them to triangulate their prey in 3 dimensions. A field mouse moves beneath the snow, invisible. The owl knows its depth, a fall from the branch, claws extended. The snow briefly shoots upwards and then settles. Night compresses the world into pulses of action separated by long stillness. Breath hangs visibly in the air. Ice contracts with loud explosions that resonate across frozen lakes. Wolves may howl from distant mountain ranges, their howls snaking through the valleys like threads of sound. And above all, the sky acts. When solar particles, charged fragments emanating from the sun, collide with gases in Earth's upper atmosphere, they excite atoms and trigger a luminous response. Oxygen glows green or red. Nitrogen twinkles violet. Curtains of light ripple in the darkness in slow, liquid waves. The aurora borealis is physics made visible. In the harsh Siberian winter, far from the city lights, the aurora borealis can stretch from horizon to horizon. It arches, fractures, and reshapes itself. It pulsates like a living organism. The snow reflects its color, tinting the forests a ghostly emerald. For night hunters, the aurora is neither an omen nor a spectacle. It is simply illumination. Light levels rise and fall subtly as the solar winds fluctuate. Shadows sharpen and then soften. The world bathes in photons from 90 million miles away. Humans who are underneath often feel small, but smallness is the default state in the Siberian night. The forest doesn't sleep completely. Its vigilance rotates. Diurnal species rest while nocturnal ones take their turn. Energy flows continuously, simply changing hands. At midnight, temperatures can plummet to extremes that test both fur and feathers. Yet life persists, metabolizing, listening, waiting. In the hours before dawn, the cold reaches its peak. The frost thickens. Even predators slow down. Then, almost imperceptibly, the eastern horizon fades. The night in Siberia is not empty. It is a different dimension of the same world, calmer, clearer, electrified by starlight and solar wind. A realm where lynxes glide, owls swoop down, and the sky itself becomes an animal of light. Beyond the last trees, the terrain flattens out until it becomes almost abstract. This is the tundra, the northernmost edge of Siberia, where the soil remains trapped in the permafrost and roots cannot penetrate deeply. No forests grow here. Only mosses, lichens, and dwarf shrubs flattened by the wind. The horizon seems uninterrupted, a thin line separating earth from sky. For much of the year, the ground remains completely frozen. In winter, the snow obscures the details. In summer, the top layer thaws, forming a brief, fluffy green bloom dotted with puddles of meltwater and swarms of insects. Across this vast expanse moves one of the most representative travelers of the tundra, the reindeer, known in North America as caribou. Reindeer are formed through movement. Their hooves adapt to the seasons. In summer, the pads soften, providing grip on wet, uneven terrain. In winter, they tighten and shrink, exposing the sharp edge of the hoof to cut through ice and packed snow. It's a biological adaptation tailored to the environment. Even their noses are designed for the cold, filled with complex nasal passages that warm the incoming air before it reaches the lungs. But their greatest adaptation is collective migration. Herds of thousands of animals move across the tundra in long, flowing lines. They follow ancient routes, not etched in stone, but instinctively paths that connect wintering grounds with summer breeding grounds. The distances can span hundreds, sometimes more than 1,000 kilometers. In spring, pregnant females head north to the coastal plains where the wind keeps insects at bay and predators are easier to spot in the open. The young are born in almost constant daylight. Within hours, they are standing. Within days, they are running. On the tundra, hesitation comes at a price. In autumn, the herds change direction and retreat south as temperatures drop and darkness lengthens. The snow thickens. Lichens, a vital winter food source, lie buried beneath the snowdrifts. The reindeer lower their heads and scrape their hooves, revealing the pale mats of reindeer moss hidden beneath. The sound of their hooves against the hardened snow becomes rhythmic, almost percussive. Migration here is not a spectacle, it is a necessity. Predators follow these movements, wolves prowl the borders, Arctic foxes follow, yet the pack's strength lies in its size. Thousands of eyes scan the horizon, thousands of bodies churn the snow, creating a shifting landscape of footprints. The tundra itself appears austere, but its balance is intricate. Beneath the thin, active layer of thawing soil lies permafrost, ground frozen for years, often millennia. This anchors the ecosystem. When it remains stable, wetlands and vegetation patterns are maintained. When it thaws deeply, the ground sinks, altering water flow and plant growth. Climate change is altering this northern boundary. Warmer summers soften the permafrost. Ice crusts form more frequently in winter after freeze-thaw cycles, sealing vegetation under impenetrable layers. For reindeer, thick ice can mean starvation. Their hooves cannot always penetrate it. Migration routes also intersect with fences, highways, and industrial corridors. In a landscape defined by openness, even the narrowest barriers can divert ancient paths. Even so, they're still moving. From a distance, a migrating herd resembles a slow-moving river over white earth. Their breath rises among the clouds, antlers intertwine against the sky. The rhythm of thousands of hooves becomes a pulse in the icy air. The tundra may seem empty at first glance, a minimalist world of wind and light. But when reindeer cross it, the land reveals its purpose. In the far north of Siberia, survival is not guaranteed. They advance step by step across the frozen ground. Survival in Siberia is not accidental. It is built, molecule by molecule, behavior by behavior, through the silent arithmetic of evolution. Let's start with the skin. Insulation is physics before it's poetry. Warm-blooded animals generate heat internally through metabolism. The challenge isn't producing heat, but retaining it. Fur works by trapping air close to the skin. Air at rest is a poor conductor of heat. A dense undercoat creates millions of tiny pockets where heat lingers instead of escaping into the cold. Above this lies the protective undercoat, longer, often hollow, and sometimes coated with oils that repel water and snow. In species like Arctic foxes or Siberian wolves, the winter coat can be considerably thicker than the summer coat. The length of the day triggers hormonal changes that induce the follicles to develop a denser coat. It's not just the temperature that flips the switch. Light is the signal. Then there's the fat. Fat is misunderstood in human culture, but in the north it's a marvel. Adipose tissue stores chemical energy at high density. 1 gram of fat produces more than twice the energy of carbohydrates or proteins. It also provides insulation. Marine mammals, such as seals, rely on layers of blubber to retain heat and serve as emergency fuel during lean months. Even land animals build up reserves. Bears entering their winter dens can lose a third of their body weight during hibernation, feeding exclusively on stored fat. This fat doesn't remain inactive. Instead, it's metabolically active and releases energy slowly and steadily. Biology becomes like a slow-burning candle. And then there's the subtle wonder of countercurrent heat exchange. This is where anatomy becomes a heat-saving circuit. In animals that remain on the ice, such as reindeer, wolves, and birds, warm arterial blood flowing to the extremities meets cooler venous blood returning to the body. Heat is transferred from the outgoing blood to the incoming blood before it reaches the exposed tissue. By the time the blood reaches the paw or foot, it is cooler, warm enough to prevent frostbite, but not so cool as to waste heat. It's like pre-cooling your hands before plunging them into snow. The body sacrifices peripheral heat to preserve its core. This mechanism allows some animals to remain on the ice for hours without losing catastrophic amounts of heat. Physics embedded in the flesh. Camouflage adds another layer of strategy. The snow transforms the field of vision into a bright, uniform canvas. Both predators and prey must disappear into it. The seasonal molt changes the fur from brown or grey to white. The Arctic hare, the stoat, and the Arctic fox adopt a winter coat that reflects the light and blurs their silhouette. Even the Siberian tiger, with its striking stripes, benefits from disruptive coloration. Vertical bands that fragment its silhouette among the tree trunks and the shaded snow. Camouflage isn't invisibility, it's confusion. The observer's brain searches for edges, patterns, recognizable shapes. Break the outline and you buy time, enough to attack or enough to flee. But physical traits are only part of the story. Instinct guides migration, den selection, and hunting timing. Animals adjust their activity cycles to avoid the coldest hours. Some enter a state of torpor, reducing their metabolic rate to conserve energy. Others modify their diet seasonally, changing their prey or plant source depending on availability. Adaptation is not a one-size-fits-all trick. It's a system of layers. Fur traps air, fat stores energy, blood vessels recycle heat, color masks movement, behavior fine-tunes everything. Siberia tests every weakness, and yet through forests, tundra, and frozen lakes, life persists, not because the cold is mild, but because evolution has spent millennia learning how to respond to it. In the north, survival is a science written in the muscles, in the molecules, in the instinct, silent, precise, and amazingly effective. Human presence, logging, roads, poaching Siberia seems endless. From the air, the forests stretch beyond the curve of vision, a dark green ocean of larches and pines. But even oceans can be carved. First, forest roads are cut. They begin as narrow scars, slicing deep into the taiga to reach valuable timber. From above, they look like pale threads stitched through dark fabric. On the ground, they are more significant. Roads fragment the habitat. They divide the continuous forest into compartments. For wide-ranging predators like the Siberian tiger, whose territories can span hundreds of square kilometers, fragmentation is not an inconvenience. It is a limitation. A tiger doesn't see a road as a political border, but the movement of its prey changes around it. The scent of humans lingers. Vehicles move unpredictably. What was once an uninterrupted hunting ground becomes a mosaic. Fragmentation also invites something more dangerous than engines: access. Where the roads lead, people follow them. Poaching thrives on access. Illegal deer hunting reduces prey populations. Traps set for ungulates can maim or kill unwanted species such as tigers and leopards. A single wire snare, almost invisible in the snow, can mean the end for a predator that took years to mature. For a species with an already low population, every loss is amplified. Tigers reproduce slowly. Cubs depend on their mothers for up to 2 years. If a breeding female is removed, the impact extends far beyond a single lifetime. Climate change exacerbates these pressures. Siberia is warming faster than many parts of the world. The permafrost is thawing, destabilizing both the soil and infrastructure. Fire seasons are lengthening. Insect outbreaks are expanding northward. As forests burn more frequently and intensely, carbon long stored in trees and frozen soil is released into the atmosphere, accelerating the cycle. Habitat changes, prey distribution is altered. Snow patterns change, affecting the hunting dynamics of predators adapted to dense winter cover. The system is being pushed, sometimes abruptly, out of its long-held equilibrium. And yet, the human presence is not only destructive. Conservation in Siberia has become a deliberate and organized effort. Protected areas like the Sikhote-Alin Biosphere Reserve safeguard critical tiger habitat in the Russian Far East. Anti-poaching units patrol on foot, by vehicle, and sometimes on skis. Rangers traverse snowy forests, checking camera traps, dismantling snares, and documenting tracks. In winter, a ranger might follow a tiger's tracks, round, heavy impressions left in the fresh snow. Each track is information. Each step tells a story of health, direction, and survival. Camera traps flash silently in the darkness, capturing striped silhouettes as they pass through the tree corridors. These images are evidence, proof that the forest still harbors its apex predator. Community participation has also increased. Compensation programs reduce retaliatory killings when livestock are lost. Educational initiatives foster local support for wildlife protection. Science guides management, including radio collars, genetic sampling, and satellite monitoring. Conservation is becoming a collaboration between fieldwork and data analysis. None of this is easy. Siberia's sheer scale makes law enforcement difficult. Its resources encourage exploitation. Its climate magnifies any imbalance. But the presence of roads doesn't guarantee losses. Human presence doesn't automatically erase wilderness. At dawn, a ranger stands at the edge of a forest trail. Frost forms in his breath. Somewhere beyond the trees, a tiger moves unseen. The future of Siberia will not be written by nature alone. The negotiation will be between extraction and restriction, between access and protection. The forest is immense. Whether it remains intact now depends on human decisions.